Welcome to Politically Georgia from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I'm Greg Bluestein, here with Patricia Murphy. Hey, Patricia.
Hey, Greg.
Atlanta is about to become the center of several very different worlds at the very same time. The World Cup kicks off here this week, bringing massive crowds, international attention, and a security operation that's years in the making. At the same time, Georgia Republicans are heading into a high-stakes runoff for governor, for U.S. Senate, for other offices. And just a day later, lawmakers return to the Capitol for a special session that could redraw political maps across the state. Those storylines are starting to collide. Democrats are already warning that the redistricting fight could spark protests and public demonstrations as activists try to focus global attention on what they see as a major rollback of voting rights. Republican leaders, meanwhile, are emphasizing security preparations and urging Georgians to showcase Atlanta on the world stage. So today we're looking at what happens when politics, protest, and the world's biggest sporting event arrive in Atlanta at exactly the same moment. We're here with former Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin to talk all about this. And Mayor Franklin is also helping to promote a day of action today.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Well, Mayor, tell us about how folks are kind of preparing for all these moments at once.
I don't know how we are preparing, but I know everybody's very busy. I can guarantee you, just my experience with the Olympics tells me that the World Cup alone would keep most of the community leaders, public leaders, business leaders active. I am working on a Unity Day of Action, which is hosted by Andrew Young and Reverend Kenneth Alexander. Later today at Antioch Baptist Church North. It's a call to action, really to talk about democracy and civic engagement and how we collaborate, really to make our voices heard.
We want to talk to you about democracy and the role that people have in it. Before we move on to that, a quick question about the World Cup and all that you did to help prepare Atlanta for the Olympics. What were a few of the top issues that you were dealing with, whether it was security, moving crowds around, making sure that the city looked beautiful because there was a lot of beautification that happened? What do you look back on and think that we did that, and good luck, Andre Dickens?
Well, good luck to the Atlanta Sports Council, to the Planning Committee, to the mayor and the city council, and to other government officials. The Olympics was 5 years in the planning process. There was a lot of community engagement, the recruitment and training of volunteers, cultural Olympiad, and then, of course, all the logistics associated with the games. I had some experience with the coordination of the National Democratic Convention in 1988. So it wasn't all new to the city or to a lot of the city leaders. But traffic and controlling traffic and security are all top priorities. But another top priority is being sure that Atlantans actually enjoy the experience of having the World Cup games in Atlanta, and that our visitors, who I hope are many, will enjoy the city and visit not just for the soccer games, but for some of our historic institutions like the King Center, the Carter Center, the Center for Civil and Human Rights, the College Football Hall of Fame.
There's obviously a lot of concern right now over MARTA and whether MARTA is ready, especially with the recent violence. As a former mayor, when you had to deal with these sorts of crises, what's your sort of best advice for grappling with these issues?
Well, having full analysis and briefing, being flexible, making sure that you have good coordination and communication, both internal and external communication, are really crucial to managing any large event, any large natural disaster or man-made challenge.
And on the MARTA piece of it, MARTA has its own independent governance structure, but I think Atlantans inevitably look to the mayor for what should we do? How should we feel? Is this going to be okay? Do you have any advice for Andre Dickens right now with some of the kind of recent flare-ups of violence that have given Atlanta some concerns?
Well, I think our mayor, Mayor Dickens, is focused on all aspects of preparations. And clearly, public safety and security are top priorities for him. He ran on that issue. He's made it a key issue. I have no doubt that he is focusing on making sure that MARTA, but also the sidewalks and the roadways, that people are safe and secure and able to enjoy themselves.
Let's talk about the convergence of politics and all these other issues that are happening, as well as the World Cup. I kind of view this special session as the special session that almost no one wanted. There's a lot of Republicans who don't want the special session either. And also as the World Cup special session, because lawmakers are heading back to Atlanta for that special session next week, just as thousands, hundreds of thousands of tourists and visitors are converging on Atlanta for the World Cup. And it's going to put these issues of redistricting in the spotlight. I think this day of action is also aimed at doing this as well.
Well, certainly the special session, the Supreme Court's ruling on the Voting Rights Act is all certainly on the minds of a lot of us. The day of action, the Unity Day of Action, is sponsored by the Soul of Atlanta, which involves the 5 former mayors, and our current mayor has participated in those activities as well. It's designed to be a coalition that allows people to share ideas, to network, and to collaborate on how we respond to some of the challenges that our community faces.
And what's the message of the Day of Unity? Who is the unity meant to be?
It's meant to be anyone who's concerned about the rollback of certain civil rights. It's people who are concerned about preserving transparency and accessibility in our elections. It's meant to be for people who are concerned about those things. It is co-sponsored by a half a dozen other groups, all of whom have their special area of focus. We are excited that Andrew Young has called us together. It's not something that he often does, though he has a wealth of knowledge and experience challenging systems that make it harder for people to vote, for people to be involved in the economy and in opportunity. We're excited also to have Dr. Sherilyn Eiffel. She is a noted scholar, professor of civil rights at Howard University, and the former executive director of the Legal Defense Fund that has defended the Voting Rights Act and other civil rights acts.
Mayor, we haven't seen the maps yet, the proposed maps that lawmakers will be discussing at this special session, but we can imagine that they look to probably overhaul at least 2 Democratic-held districts to flip them to Republican control, as well as several legislative districts. Republicans will say, look, we now have the authority to do so because of the Supreme Court ruling. In fact, some of them say that that ruling makes Georgia's maps illegal. It does not, but they do argue that after this ruling, they have the right to do so. What's the sort of counter argument to that?
Well, the counter argument is that the Voting Rights Act was designed to correct ages, decades, centuries of exclusion of African American voters, and by doing so, also open up the opportunities for other groups that had been excluded from leadership of the country for most of the country's history. And it's really fascinating and actually frustrating that on the 250th celebration of the United States and our Bill of Rights and our Constitution and the formation of the United States, when promises were made that every person would be able to pursue happiness, pursue economic opportunity, that we're actually having to revisit this issue. But having said that, I think America is up to the challenge, and I'm absolutely certain Atlanta and Georgia are.
We have spoken with Black lawmakers from the Capitol who see this as sort of a worst case scenario, that the Supreme Court has lifted these obligations from states to adhere to the Voting Rights Act, and that Republicans are in charge. And it's very likely that at least Sanford Bishop's district is likely to be redrawn for 2028, making it harder for him to win. But then at the legislative level, because Black lawmakers also represent areas that are heavily Democratic and can be redrawn, very likely to lose a number of Black lawmakers from the General Assembly as well. Not only will it be more Republican, but it will be less diverse. What does that mean to you beyond just the kind of the numbers for Democrats? What does it mean to lose those voices and in some cases that people who lived through segregation and lived through the first time Blacks were fighting for the right to vote?
Well, it's devastating. I mean, it's devastating. I mean, many of us and have watched or been a part of civil rights. I was a student in the 1960s, a college student. I knew a number of the founders of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee as an 18 and 19-year-old student, and was very interested in the cause. Though I didn't participate directly, I have benefited, and I believe that the community has benefited from the leadership of more diverse leadership. When you look at the success of the city of Atlanta over the last 60 years, you see what value diverse opinions and African-American leadership has brought to the city of Atlanta. And by bringing it to the city of Atlanta, has brought it to the state of Georgia. Because we all brag about, all of us, white and Black and Latino, all brag about living in a community that is healthy economically. And a lot of that is dependent on the success of the Georgia port, but it's also dependent on the success of the Atlanta airport. And the transformation of the Atlanta airport to an international airport from being a regional airport happened successfully under the leadership of African-American mayors. So there is no question in my mind that we have benefited as Georgians. We have benefited from this diversity, and we shouldn't take it for granted.
Mayor, I have a two-part question. First, what should we expect in the next few weeks, days? Protests, organizing action? And also, secondly, what do you hope it brings? Because if Republicans stick together, they have the votes, obviously, to pass whatever they want, if they stick together. So what can a sort of organized movement actually, how can it affect change under the Gold Dome?
Well, I mean, an organized movement affected change at the U.S. Congress that brought us the Voting Rights Act and that brought us the Civil Rights Act. Certainly, African Americans were not in the majority at that time, and those were passed with bipartisan support. I believe that people from all backgrounds, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, and even some of those who don't vote at all, recognize what is fair, what is just, and the foundation of our country, although we haven't achieved it, is that we have a fair and just country where every voice counts, every vote counts. As far as the protests go, we are a country that's founded on protest, so we shouldn't be afraid of that. Nonviolent protest, organized or unorganized protest, is part of what makes democracy vibrant, makes democracy work. And I believe that if we do see protests, that those protests can be beneficial to actually defining both the opportunity and challenging any limitations that are presented.
A big piece of the civil rights movement and why Atlanta was different from Birmingham and Columbia was the business community in Atlanta, including white leaders of the business community. Would you like to see the business community more involved in this? Is there a role for them to play right now? And certainly they're not all white voices, but it takes it a little out of politics and puts it in maybe a broader perspective.
Well, I mean, the business leadership has provided opportunity for people from all backgrounds, certainly in employment and business opportunity, and the business community historically has benefited from the leadership of African American leaders, Latino leaders, women. Let's not forget them, because the struggle for civil rights and human rights has crossed over to women, to African Americans, to Latinos, to Asian Pacific. It's also crossed over to many whites who were left out because they weren't landowners, because they were not wealthy. So with the labor movement. So I don't know whether I would advise a business leader to get engaged in this at this point. They certainly are welcome to. And those who have a heart for it and a heart for human rights ought to feel free and welcome to be engaged.
Mayor, one more question before we got to take a break. One of your successors, former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, is, of course, the Democratic nominee for governor right now. She'd also be not just the first Black woman elected governor in the nation's history, any governor, but also she'd be the first former Atlanta mayor elected governor in Georgia. So that'd be something else if she's elected. As you watch her campaign, as you've watched the coverage, she's leaning on her record as Atlanta mayor. There's also some of her supporters who worry that it could come back to haunt her in a general election campaign. How do you think she strikes that balance?
I think she's actually struck that balance. She ran a very strong campaign. She was clear about her goals and her objectives, the principles that she would stand on. All of us, I certainly am very proud that she is the nominee. And I think that she will be able to strike that balance, because the question in the election is not what happened yesterday, but what is going to happen today and tomorrow. And I think she is very clear about her goals and her objectives as governor.
A quick follow-up on that. It's not about what happened yesterday, but is that relevant, how the city performed under Mayor Bottoms? Should that be a part of voters' concerns or voters' evaluation of her?
Well, I think everything about a candidate is part of the evaluation, whether it is positive or negative, or whether it is just something that you just disagree with. I mean, there were certainly tons of things that people disagreed with me on. And there were mistakes made. I made mistakes. But I'm not judged solely based on what happened in the past. I'm judged in part, I'm pleased to say, on what I'm talking about today. What I'm talking about today is the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, the women's movement, the inclusion of people and employees, the labor movement. I'm talking about human rights. So I could be right about this and wrong about something else. I think Mayor Bottoms and our new nominee for governor is well suited to provide leadership for the state of Georgia. She has experience at the federal level and the local level, and she has a real heart for the people of Georgia.
Mayor Franklin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Patricia will let you go so you can hit the campaign trail. When we come back, Tia Mitchell joins me as we talk with MARTA Police Chief Scott Kreher as MARTA safety turns into a political issue, just as thousands and thousands of visitors are expected to arrive for the World Cup. This is Politically Georgia from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Welcome back to Politically Georgia. I'm Greg Bluestein, joined now by Washington Bureau Chief Tia Mitchell. Hey, Tia.
Hey, Greg.
Reminder, if you've got a question you'd like to ask us here on Politically Georgia, you can call our hotline anytime, day or night. Leave it, play it back, and answer your question right here on the show during our Monday mailbag segment. The number is 770-810-5297. While Atlanta gets ready to welcome the world, MARTA is facing a fresh wave of scrutiny. A series of violent attacks on the transit system has turned MARTA safety into a political issue, just as thousands of visitors are expected to arrive for the World Cup. Republican legislative leaders are demanding answers. Federal officials are investigating. Candidates for governor and Senate are weighing in, and MARTA is trying to reassure the hundreds of thousands of visitors about to arrive that the system is ready. Joining us now is MARTA Police Chief Scott Kreher. Chief Kreher has led the department since 2020 when he came over after a 27-year career with the Atlanta Police Department. Chief Kreher, welcome to Politically Georgia.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Well, a lot of people are hearing MARTA officials saying that crime overall is down compared to other systems when they see headlines about stabbings and shootings, and they're feeling uncertain. What's your message to MARTA's riders and the visitors arriving in Atlanta as we speak?
That's a great question. And I think we first want to take a minute just to send out again our heartfelt condolences to the victim that was killed recently on our system, along with some of those other victims in the last month and a half that kind of put us where we are today, discussing crime and our system. Let's back up a little bit. Crime on the MARTA system, 2020 to present, crime is down 45% in Part 1 crimes, 45% since 2020. Last year in 2025, we reduced Part 1 crimes again by another 25%. Over 2024. And this morning, we woke up and we're down about 8% year to date compared to last year. Saying that, I completely understand the last month has been a violent month for us. We've seen an uptick in the propensity of violence just in basically 4 major cases that really caught the attention of the public and got us where we are today. One of those was a homicide involving some teenagers. That 16-year-old victim was carrying a fully automatic Glock pistol with a 30-round magazine, and the assailants of that assault and that murder are in prison or in jail right now, pending trial. So all 3 of those individuals are in jail. The next one was a fight between 2 individuals, two grown men at the Georgia State Station. It turned into a fist fight that turned into a knife fight. One was stabbed by the other. We're currently still looking for that assailant, and we're also going to be charging this person that was stabbed in that fight because he was the aggressor in that fight. And then we moved to the horrific murder recently, and I can't express how it feels as a police chief and as a 35-year veteran of law enforcement in the city. How that affects us. We live with that the rest of our lives. And I know the family's going to live it with the rest of their lives. This individual that committed that horrendous crime was a 25-year-old male that had 0 criminal history, just nothing, not even a parking ticket that we could find. So it's going to be a task for not only Fulton County DA, but also now the U.S. Attorney to just really kind of dig in and find out what happened. He was captured by our officers on the platform immediately after that event. The entire event took about 25 seconds, and it was over. So that just goes to show you how quickly things can escalate. And then I guess the next week and a half later, we had an individual tap into the system and got on the platform to enter another train car where our victim was entering a different train car. They turned around and looked at each other, and then the victim walked onto the train car to sit down. That was the 17-year-old victim there. And then the other suspect walked over to his train car, pulled out a weapon, and shot him, and then fled. We captured that individual with the help of the FBI Ammo Task Force. And looking at him, this is a 22-cycle arrest individual who's been on multiple probations, multiple arrests. And I think it was a good thing that the U.S. Attorney got involved in this case, too. We have to do something about these violent repeat offenders. We can't continue to let them wreak havoc on our society and not face consequences. So I'm happy to see that prosecution moving forward.
So, again, I do appreciate you joining us, Chief Kreher. You talked about Part 1 crimes. I'm assuming those are like the most violent crimes are considered Part 1 crimes. And you talked about crime being down. Can you just talk about how often are the most violent types of crimes, stabbings, shootings, murders, armed robberies? Is that a daily thing, a weekly thing, a monthly thing? Can you just kind of put it in perspective? Sure. For people who may be thinking, how often is this actually happening? Because it seems to be happening a lot if you look at recent news reports.
Yeah, it's difficult once the train leaves the station, no pun intended, when you see this string of violence at one time. Like last year, I think we ended up with roughly 25 robberies and a little bit more ag assaults, and that's in a 365-day year. But what you do, the UCR is the Uniform Crime Report, and that's mandatory reporting. The difficulty with transit agencies is there's such a variety of different transit agencies. It's apples and oranges when you try to compare crime among different transit agencies. The NTD is only tracking assaults that actually result in enough harm where they have to go to the hospital and be treated by medical staff. The important thing to think is you can show those reductions all day long, but if people don't feel safe, if they have this lingering worry that they're going to be assaulted or they're going to be in harm's way on the system, we still have a lot of work to do. And that's really where our focus is. There's a lot of discussions about, we need an officer on every train. Well, if you think about it, a train has 6 cars. That would require 6 officers times about 30 trains a day. You can do the math. That's literally impossible for us to do. So we try to put an officer on those trains, and they either step off and step on at different stations, or they try to walk through the cars. The commitment that the interim CEO, Mr. Hunt, and I made to the public, our new train cars that are coming into play, those are new cars that have an open gangplank. So you can walk on that train set, and you can see from one end to the other without having to get off the train or go through train cars. So we've committed to putting a police officer on every one of those new trains as they roll out. And I think that's really going to help with the perception of crime, and it certainly will help with the reality of crime, I think. We have new technology coming on board very soon that's going to allow us, when we suspend somebody or we arrest somebody and suspend somebody from our system, we can put their information in this technology, and the minute that person hits one of our cameras, it will alert us that they're on our property. This is a game changer. I mean, this is really going to put us in a new position where we're going to be immediately focused on those that we know have already violated the rules, have already broken the law, and we can go to them immediately once they hit those cameras. So we're really looking forward to that technology, and that's coming soon.
On that same point, a Wall Street Journal editorial that just ran yesterday focused on John McMillan. He's a Georgia State University history professor who kind of brought up some of the same points. He said, look, I know the stats show that these rate of personal security events is in line with the national average. But he wrote, like most riders, when I take MARTA and consider my safety, I'm not thinking in terms of passenger miles. I wonder whether I'll be harassed, assaulted, robbed, or witness something disturbing on my commute. You just mentioned all the steps MARTA's taking to make people feel more comfortable. I asked Governor Kemp about this just the other day, whether or not he's going to take any steps to help MARTA. This is what he said.
If anybody needs additional resources, all they got to do is call and ask us. I mean, we've got, also National Guard assets, all our state assets, everything that the city's doing. I mean, we'll do anything anybody wants us to do.
So has MARTA asked Governor Kemp, does MARTA need any more state resources beyond what it's already getting?
Governor Kemp has always been a partner in law enforcement in the region, including MARTA. The establishment of the World Cup plan started over a year ago, and we have those relationships already in place. The National Guard is already available. The Georgia State Patrol is already available. Matter of fact, the Georgia State Patrol played a vital role in capturing our Midtown shooter the other day with their air unit. So the colonel and I speak on a regular basis. We're partners in the region along with the other major police departments and the smaller ones. Chief Shearbaum and I appreciate their assistance. We work together. We work and we talk to each other almost every day. So while I appreciate the governor's comments, it's already been asked. It's already been accepted. So we're looking forward to a fantastic World Cup, a safe World Cup. But as I mentioned early in an earlier interview, I'm more concerned about July 20th. That's the day after the closing ceremonies. Our riders and our local citizens deserve a safe system, not just because World Cup's here. So I'm looking forward after World Cup to seeing what else we can do to make sure that our riders feel safe. One of the things that we encounter quite a bit on the system is the unsheltered, mental health issues and alcohol and drug abuse issues. We have what's called the Hope MARTA team, which is a group of licensed practitioners that are out there trying to service these individuals. But what we do is we run into a lot of hesitancy and a lot of pushback on accepting those services once we make contact with those individuals. So while we're enforcing our respect, we're doing it compassionately. We want to make sure that we use those MARTA assets through the Hope team to try and get resources to them. Fulton County has graciously done a transition from the detention center into intake center. And then the Kreher Hospital has a mental health facility down off Metropolitan that we can take individuals to other than Grady. So yes, we've asked, and yes, it's been answered. And I feel like we're headed in the right direction. Particularly for World Cup, just focusing on that for a minute. Our officers, after the homicide, that's Sunday, we shifted to 6-day work weeks with one off day for all our sworn staff. Now, that was supposed to kick off this Saturday with World Cup events, but we moved that up a week just because of the, the 2 or 3 week spike in these violent crimes. I felt it was important for us to go ahead and do that immediately.
So I know we're running out of time, but I just wanted to quickly ask about the federal intervention. The U.S. Department of Transportation has asked MARTA to answer a bunch of questions, has basically said it's launching an investigation into whether MARTA is doing enough to keep people safe. Have you guys responded to that initial request for information? And how has the conversation with the feds been going in recent days?
Well, there hasn't been any conversation yet. We just got the letter a few days ago. We're preparing our responses. We're looking forward to offering up our responses. I think once they take a look at everything encompassing that MARTA does, I'm looking forward to their response and seeing how we can work together to make it safer. But as of right now, we have not had any one-on-one conversations with them. We have some deadlines to meet internally for next week that we're currently working on right now to answer their questions. But I just want to remind the public, too, that if you look at the NTD data and you really drill down, there's about 165 to 170 transit agencies in the country that report their assaults and security issues to the NTD. Of those, only 15 transit agencies in the country have heavy rail or trains like we have. So if you take those 15 transit agencies and you compare us over the years, we're kind of in the middle if you look at the overall stats using their own database. So I'm looking forward to a productive conversation with them, and obviously any recommendations they can make that'll improve safety, we're all open arms.
Well, Chief Kreher, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for you and your team's work keeping us safe, all our visitors to Atlanta safe, and good luck over these next few weeks.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Well, that's going to do it for today's edition of Politically Georgia. If you enjoyed what you heard, please follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform and share Politically Georgia with a friend. It really helps others find our show and join the conversation. We'll talk to you next time on the Politically Georgia podcast from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Thanks for listening to the Politically Georgia podcast. Our executive producer is Shane Backler. AJC's head of audio is Sam Stamler. Production support from our partners at Goat Rodeo, including Kara Schillen, Hazel Hoffman, and Max Johnston. For more of our political coverage, visit ajc.com/politicallygeorgia, and we invite you to support local journalism by subscribing to the AJC. Join us again next time on the Politically Georgia podcast from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.